Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again across the Louisiana plain, where we are advancing the cause of constitutional freedom and liberty, raising the profile of great constitutional conservative candidates across the state of Louisiana, and day by day, steadily, relentlessly, inexorably, and courageously draining the Louisiana swamp. My name is Chris.
And I'm Danielle, and this is the State of Freedom, brought to you by freedom-loving Louisiana First Patriots. Hello, State of Freedom warriors. Thank you so much for inviting us to be part of your day. We are so grateful for you. You are the best of the best, the cream of the crop, the best listening family anyone could possibly hope for. And you know that we're only here because of your encouragement, your prayers, your friendship, your financial support. And if you are looking for a way to support us, to advertise with us, or to send us feedback, please do that at freedomstate.us. We would also love it if you would help us get the word out about the State of Freedom and help spread the reach. Please like the show on whatever platform you listen to us, subscribe to it, and share it. You can share short clips instead of the whole interview or whole episode over on our YouTube and Rumble channels. And links to those, as you know, are always in the show notes and over on freedomstate.us. We are so honored to be affiliate partners for General Michael Flynn's movie, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. The DVD can be purchased from several popular retailers, and he's on tour screening and promoting the film. If you'd like to support General Flynn and the State of Freedom, visit freedomstate.us to get your copy of the DVD, to buy Flynn movie merchandise, or purchase tickets to a live screening. Our affiliate link is also in the show notes. Today, we have a true Louisiana First legislator who did great things in the Louisiana House of Representatives and is bringing important legislation now in the state Senate. We're so thrilled to have our friend Senator Valarie Hodges joining the show this morning. Before we bring on Senator Hodges, let me read the scripture of the day. Today's scripture is John chapter 17, verses 25 through 26. And this is Jesus just in the moments before he goes into the Garden of Gethsemane. It says, "You are my righteous Father, but the unbelieving world has never known you in the perfect way that I know you. And all those who believe in me also know that you've sent me. I have revealed to them who you are, and I will continue to make you even more real to them so that they may experience the same endless love that you have for me. For your love will now live in them, even as I live in them." And Jesus' prayer here tells us that once we believe in him, he will continue to make God more real to us. Taking one step of faith into believing that Jesus is the Son of God who came to be the perfect sacrifice for our sins opens the door for a continual and increasing revelation of the love of God. It brings an ongoing personal experience of the love of God living and flowing in us, as well as the indwelling of Christ himself. This passage also tells us that we're not going to have it all figured out before we believe. That's where faith comes in. We take a step of faith, believing in Jesus, and he supplies the ongoing revelation. He supplies an endless flood of the love of God and his very presence inside of us.
You know, Danielle, as you were reading and praying on the scripture, I was thinking about all the people, a lot of people in the world, I think we've talked about this before, they wait or they continue to wait and try to get everything in absolute perfect order before they act. And they end up not acting because it is impossible, as we know, to have everything in perfect order before we act. That's where our faith comes in. And our guest today, Senator Hodges, who's brought and successfully passed some great legislation, both in 2023 prior to that, and has some great pending legislation now that we're going to talk about. I guarantee you she does not always have all the answers figured out and every T crossed and every I dotted before she moves forward. But she moves forward in principle and she acts in courageously to get things done, you know, in the legislature. But she's a perfect example of someone who acts even when she may not have all of the answers, and which is why she's very effective, because she has the courage to do that. Things are not always in a neat little box and perfectly rearranged arranged in life, but that's the way. But Jesus never promised that it would be that way, so it takes courage to act. And Senator Hodges, first off, thank you for having the courage to act on some of this legislation that you're bringing this session, including Senate Bill 420, which I was really gratified to read. Finally will create in Louisiana the crime of election fraud and forgery. And what a great time to bring this bill when we have millions of illegal immigrants flooding into our country, many of whom I guarantee you will either be paid or somehow promoted and subsidized to try to go vote in our elections. Talk to us about SB 420 and why it's so important and what it's going to do.
Well, thank you, Chris and Danielle, for having me on. I really appreciate it. You guys are helping get the message out there and getting us the support that we need and mobilizing people to be involved. And I really appreciate all you do. So I want to say thank you, first of all. Okay, so what the voter fraud bill does is SB 420. What we're doing is taking what's already in the election code that is a civil crime, but it's not criminal. So we basically just copied and pasted what's in the election code and put it over in the criminal code, so that if anyone is voting without being a citizen or trying to register to vote and they're not authorized to vote or whatever, for whatever reason, it's going to make it a crime. And there will be fines and possibly even jail time. So I take it that serious. I believe it's one of the most sacred rights that we have as Americans, and we need to protect that. We saw so much in the past, voter fraud, and there was cases, even one of our senators had voter fraud and had an election stolen from her. And so a lot of people said, oh, this is not going on in Louisiana, but it is. And I have lots of cases documented, and hopefully this bill is going to make it all the way through and we can get it passed and have more secure elections. I think that will encourage more people to go vote, because a lot of people feel like my vote doesn't matter, but it does matter.
So very true.
Thank you so much for bringing this bill, because obviously voter fraud is happening in the state of Louisiana and widespread across the country. And we have seen, and you may have seen this, Senator Hodges, that the Biden administration has been doing a big push to register people in the states to vote in the presidential election, illegal immigrants. And I saw that the Secretaries of State of Mississippi and West Virginia said absolutely not. And I think some AGs have also put the Biden administration on notice about that. But we need legislation like this to help enforce those refusals.
Right, and it's just common sense. I wish we could export this across the nation.
Common sense is not necessarily a commodity that it is in abundant supply in certain venues.
That's right. It's not real common.
It's not real common. Now, I note that your bill 420, Senator Hodges, provides for up to 2 years in prison and a $2,000 fine on a first offense, and up to 5 years in prison and up to a $5,000 fine on second and subsequent offenses. So this is not just a stab in the dark here. This is a bill that has some real teeth in it.
Right. And that's why we did it, because in the past, I mean, nobody's gone to jail for voter fraud in Louisiana, and very rarely anywhere else. So I'm hoping that we want to send a message. And, we have other states that are watching what we're doing here in Louisiana and following suit. And it's exciting to have a governor and a legislature that is willing to pass key legislation like this. And I think I've been contacted by other legislators in Tennessee and Oklahoma, Georgia, about what is going on in Louisiana. And it's very exciting that they want to follow our lead. And I think this is one of the things that, we can do and shore up our integrity in our voting systems.
That's so awesome. Last session, we had several conversations with legislators who talked about the fact that Louisiana had been a pioneer in some legislation, and then because of our governor fell behind, and other states actually ended up bringing our legislation before we were able to get it passed in our state. So super grateful for Governor Landry and the fact that he is helping us be on the cutting edge where we want to be. When you hear some criticism on this bill, and I'm sure you've heard it, people who are not pro-election integrity, basically, anytime you try and bring some piece of election integrity legislation, the naysayers say that you're disenfranchising some segment of society. What's your response to those criticisms?
Well, I think that's just rhetoric. I don't know that they really believe that. And when I started, heard a little bit about that on the Senate floor. And once you give statistics and you show them cases that have happened, that this is not somebody had said, oh, this is a solution in search of a problem. And it's
Oh my
not.
gosh, the constant refrain, Senator Hodges, a solution in search of a
Yes.
problem.
Yeah. And it's definitely not. When you have a sitting senator now who had run for mayor, and that election was stolen. But had they not recounted, she demanded a recount, and there was voter fraud involved. And when they found out, there was nothing they could. It was civil, and so nobody had, nothing was done. And so under this bill, there will be some consequences, and so a lot of times you have to have consequences to stop bad behavior. So that's what I'm hoping to accomplish with this.
Awesome. Who was that? Was that Senator Cloud?
Yes.
Wow. Awesome. I had no idea.
That's really, really interesting. And we didn't know about that. So that's a great concrete example. It's funny how another thing that they always bring, other than solution in search of a problem, and then they always add on. I'm talking about a lot of the representatives who oppose good election reform legislation. They say, is there any evidence that this is a problem in Louisiana? And, I testified in the Senate Government Affairs Committee on one of Senator Facey's bills, similar bill that required proof of citizenship, that will require proof of citizenship when trying to register to vote. And the chairman is asking, is there any evidence that this is a problem in Louisiana? And I'm like, well, Senator Fields, we can't prove a negative. We don't know because we have there's no mechanism in place right now to determine whether or not someone is voting as a citizen because they're not required to provide proof. So we don't really know if there's a problem in Louisiana, but we certainly can anticipate that it can become a problem in light of what we see happening in other states and throughout the country. And really, we'd have to be pretty dumb and obtuse not to anticipate what I said a few minutes ago, that certainly they're going to try to go vote. I mean, it's bizarre that anybody would not understand that.
Right. Or vote more than once. We heard cases of that people were voting multiple times. They were sending in multiple ballots. And so, or forging the names. And it was here in Louisiana that there was some, I think it was 35 or 40, 50 ballots. I can't remember the exact number that they found, that were registered to people. It was supposed to be an address of an old abandoned home. So those things are happening. And hopefully this is going to stop any kind of forgery or multiple voting or things like that. So
it's a great, great bill. And obviously, we're very optimistic that this is going to get through and passed and signed. Do you see any significant hurdles from here on out on 420?
I don't. I don't. It passed out of criminal justice yesterday with no opposition, and will be heading to the floor, and Representative Dodie Horton will be handling that bill on the floor. And I'm fully confident that it's going to pass and the governor will sign it.
That's great to hear. A great, great legislator, Dodie Horton is. How about SB 388, your bill prohibiting entry and reentry into the United States and what could happen there? Talk to us about that bill. Why is that important if it's not obvious to anybody with a pulse?
Right, exactly. Well, Chris, that border security is national security. And if we don't know who's coming into our country, that's a threat. That's one of the things I said yesterday in committee, because it passed through the Senate relatively easy. Then it was referred to criminal justice, got out of criminal justice with a good, robust debate. And then they referred it to the House and Governmental because of the border compact that's in there. But yesterday, that's what I said. You don't take the windows and the doors off of your house because you're a benevolent person and you want to help people. You don't just say, well, just everybody come in,
Good.
You
Great
have
analogy.
doors and locks
Great analogy.
on your house, and you have a lock because you say, I love people, want to help people, but I don't trust everybody. And so there's boundaries here. And that border is our boundary that we can protect our nation about. And so we've got Pakistanis, Chinese, we've got everybody from every country, and finding out that the UN is paying people from a lot of terrorist countries to get to Southern America and then come up to the border. And so but we can't vet them. When you've got, I read this morning, they said 7.5 million people have come in through under Joe Biden. Well, what about the other 20 million that have come in the last 10 years? I have Border Control agents, a friend of mine, saying it's really like 30 million people that have come here illegally in the past decade. You're hearing about the 7 to 10 million under Joe Biden, but it's been going on and we haven't done anything about it. So what my main concern, what I want to do, many of the people that are entering our country are known terrorists. And I don't know if y'all saw that thing in Venezuela where they said they emptied out their jails and gave money for them to get here. They're prisoners, they're insane asylums, countries like Venezuela. It is unbelievable. It is literally like some kind of horror movie that you would watch to think about the invasion that is happening. And MS-13 gangs, they said, I think it was 340 people on the terrorist watch list that they apprehended in the last 2 years. Well, how many did they not apprehend? How many got away? And that's why I brought this bill. And what it does, it creates the crime of trespassing. And basically, it mirrors Texas law, SB4 in Texas, and says that it creates the crime of trespassing. And if they're stopped for something and the law enforcement officer finds out that they're here without authorization, then they can call ICE or border security, and they can be detained and they can be deported. And so, yesterday we heard the part of, they referred it to House and Governmental because of the border compact. And, there was some argument from the Southern Poverty Law Center came to the table, talked about, this is the federal government's job. Well, guess what? The federal government is not doing their job. They are derelict in their duties. And so our founding fathers were so brilliant 240 years ago that they could foresee things when the federal government doesn't do their job. So, I read Article 1, Section 10 that authorizes the states to protect themselves in case of an invasion. And I believe, and I think, anybody, like you said, that with a pulse, Chris, anybody could see that this is an invasion. It's an invasion by drug cartels, human trafficking cartels, terrorists who are on the terrorist watch list. And the federal government is not doing their job. So we have that power given to us by the Constitution in Article 1, Section 10 and Article 4, Section 4 to authorize us in case of an imminent threat or an invasion. So you heard last week and the week before, Director, what's his name, with the FBI, Ray?
Christopher Wray,
yeah, saying that, there is an imminent threat to America. And so, he's stating that, the FBI, the head of the FBI, stating that. So under this, I feel 100% confident this will be upheld in court if it's challenged, because we have a right to protect ourselves. And when I believe that, got out of House and Governmental with not too much debate yesterday after we had the Israel bill that went through first, and that was a lot of upheaval in that, and people being dragged out of the committee room screaming and hollering and kicking. So I think people were just like, oh, let's get out of here. So the bill got out I think it was like 6-2. Yeah, it was out of control, really. It was crazy. So I expected more pushback on this than there was, but I'm happy that the committee passed it out, and it will go hopefully next week as well to the floor.
Great. Senator Hodges, is there any reason to believe that federal immigration officials will be helpful if we make referrals, since they're not already enforcing the federal laws? Or is this, at least we have the right now to detain these people ourselves?
Oh, so when you call ICE, they're going to deport them somewhere. So this is the thing. Everybody was upset with Mike Johnson because he wasn't doing anything about the border. And I had a conversation with one of his staffers to say, look, the main thing people care about right now is the border, making it safe. We're not only is it costing us hundreds of millions of dollars because people here who are here illegally get free housing, free food, free insurance, free healthcare. And so we're not even talking about the economic part of what they're getting. But, I said, why isn't Speaker Johnson doing something about this? And he was like, what do you want him to do? We already have laws. We've already passed laws to close the border. We've already sent money down there, but Biden keeps inviting them in. They keep helping them get to this continent to get across. What more can we do? And so then that was sort of eye-opening for me, because we were saying he held it for months, and he couldn't get the bipartisan support to fund Israel because they wouldn't do anything about the border. But they're like, well, we've done all we can do. It's going to take a new president with a lot of courage and determination and capacity to stop this, because it literally is an invasion.
It is. And Senator Hodges, I have not agreed, and I know Danielle has not fully agreed with everything that Mike Johnson has done or not done. But I have to tell you, this is not a fair criticism of him. He is not a member of the executive agency of government. He has no enforcement power. And, if we do not have a viable enforcement agency through the executive branch of government, well, then laws are not really worth the paper that they're printed on if they're not enforced. And you're exactly right. Speaker Johnson has really sounded the alarm on the invasion that is occurring. He has been openly and consistently critical of Biden's complete inaction on this issue. But when it gets right down to it, Mike Johnson cannot order troops to the border. It's not his jurisdictional authority. And so I do not think that's a fair criticism of the speaker. And I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, I do too. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, the motion to vacate yesterday, thank God, failed, because it's really insanity to think if they get rid of Mike Johnson, who are we going to get? Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. She thinks they're going to do better, but at least Mike is trying. That's the thing. He's got a margin vote of 1. And can't get all the Republicans on board for anything. So I think Mike's doing all that he can on the border. It's just we have laws, but they're not enforcing them on a federal level. And so that's why we have to do something on a state level. And there was a senator from Tennessee yesterday. Other states have done this. Texas was the first state to do this and create the crime of trespassing, and they are actively deporting people and flying them back to their countries. And so then, other states have done it. Oklahoma just passed it. Tennessee is passing it. Louisiana we're on the verge of passing it, and the governor's signing it. And I think if enough of us stand together, and that's why my bill also authorizes a border compact. That Texas was working on this border compact, and then it didn't pass. It passed out of the Senate, got over to the House, and it stalled. And they have told me that when they go back in session, they are going to develop an interstate compact. And so that would give the ability for states to enter into a compact that, you're supposed to have the authorization for Congress. But if Congress is not authorized, if they refuse to do that, then Article 1, Section 10 and Article 4, Section, I think it's 4.
4. Would be applicable.
It is. It would. So that gives us the ability to be able to have an interstate compact, that we have to do something. And I believe that this is the best that we can do until we can get a new president.
I'm excited to share a fantastic opportunity for State of Freedom listeners who are interested in investing in precious metals or even starting a home-based business in the precious metals industry. Metal Stacks is a precious metals collectors club where you can buy your metals at the best prices on the market, actual dealer cost. They are beating the big sites. They have no credit card fees and no minimums. If you're just interested in purchasing metals at a great price, visit metalstacks.com/dwalker. Get to shopping. That helps me out. I get the commission. You can also refer people to Metal Stacks for an additional income. If you're interested in learning about the referral business aspect of Metal Stacks, email me directly at danielle@freedomstate.us for more information.
Your predecessor, Senator Hodges, brought a just briefly, I want to say this brought a teacher interstate compact bill last session that was horrible because it involved really a surrender of our sovereignty to determine how we certify and reciprocate certification for our teachers. I'm assuming that your compact, when it comes to securing our border, would do nothing to surrender or compromise our independent sovereignty.
Oh,
as a
no,
state.
it does the opposite. And he wasn't my predecessor. He was my opponent.
Oh, I'm sorry, not your predecessor, your opponent. That wow, and very, very thankful that he is no longer in the legislature. Conversation for another day. But talk to us a little bit about the relationship that Louisiana would have with other states who are a member of this enforcement compact regarding illegal immigration.
Well, it would give us the ability, along with, obviously, Texas would have to develop it because they are the border state. I mean, I wanted to actually do an actual compact, but the attorneys in D.C. and here said you have to be a border state, and Texas or Arizona or California would have to do it. So we have been in contact with Governor Abbott's staff. They are planning, when they go back in session, to write a compact. Our governor could enter into that compact. Then the legislature has to approve it. I wrote it so just in case, we want to see what's in the compact and what they're signing, what they're developing in Texas. And then what that does, it allows us to share resources, finances, supplies, National Guard, whatever we need. It's a compact that we would be in together in this fight against this invasion that we're experiencing.
And it sounds, Senator Hodges, that you're doing exactly, you mentioned the Founding Fathers and their brilliance a minute ago. It looks like this legislation, it consists of a number of states coming together and forming a coalition to do the job that our federal government simply has proven itself either unwilling or unable to do.
Oh, it's not that they're unwilling and unable. They are. They are able. They are just unwilling, and they have betrayed us. And it is a betrayal of our federal government, which I never thought I would see, when they are helping our enemy countries that are our enemies to come here and invade our country. And then what just is upheaval, and it is going to be the destruction of our country if we don't do something about it. So that's why I feel very passionate about this. I want to help people. I am 1,000% in favor of legal immigration. There's a process to do that, and that way you can vet them. We know who they are. We know they're not on a terrorist watch list. They're not an MS-13 gang member or drug trafficking or human trafficker. But if they come and they come the right way, that's a pathway to citizenship. They can pay taxes. They can be a part of our society, raise a family here, and contribute. We need these people. We need people to come. We are all descendants of immigrants, but it has to be done the right way, especially in the day that we're living with so many threats across the globe, that we want to know who we're inviting into our home, which is America.
So well said.
And Senator Hodges, at what point do you think the American people wake up, or the people of Louisiana wake up and just stop sending tax dollars to D.C. because the government is not holding up its end of the bargain?
Well, I know that most people in Louisiana are, they want to obey the law. They want to be law-abiding citizens and do, their duty. So that's a hard call,
Yeah.
So,
no taxation without representation, where our interests are not being represented.
Yeah.
Well, and hopefully we'll see in November, that change. It's got to. I mean, if it doesn't, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just hope people do wake up.
Well, let me ask you this, Danielle, did you ever think that you would be living in a country, honestly, where your own federal government is not only refusing to protect American citizens from this unlawful invasion, but actively complicit in it, as Senator Hodges said, subsidizing this unlawful invasion? If that's not a fundamental betrayal of our citizens and of our Constitution, I'm not sure whatever would be.
Right. Yeah.
How about, Senator Hodges, switching gear for a second here? Oh, well, let me ask you, 388, you don't anticipate any problem at this point getting that through and signed, right?
No, I don't. Absolutely not. Debbie Villio yesterday agreed to carry it on the floor, And I've not had one Republican vote against this bill.
Good. Very, very
So we've
important.
got the majority. Yeah, I think I don't foresee any problems with it. It will probably be a heated debate. But, the thing it just escapes me to be able to comprehend how even the Democrats can be for what's happening, because their children and grandchildren have to grow up in this country. And I guess, some people have said, well, they think America's too big to fail, that, that what you're saying would never happen. But who would have believed it? What's happening is happening now.
And the Titanic was too big to sink.
Right. Right. So,
Senator
yeah.
Hodges, it never ceases to amaze me. Before we go into the gold and silver bill, I have to tell you this. It never ceases to amaze me when I'm testifying in front of committees, the extent to which certain members of our legislature, typically Democrat members, not always, there are always some notable exceptions, but typically Democrat members, do not seem to understand cause and effect, do not seem to understand the concept also of preemptive legislation. In other words, the capacity to look around and see what's happening in other states, see what's happening in this case on our border, and say, you know what? This is coming to a theater near us, and we need to do something now to preemptively foreclose this. They just don't seem to have the ability to do that. And they're always asking, this is not a problem here. Why are we doing this? This is a solution in search of a problem. Why do you think it is, and this is on a broader level, that they don't seem to understand the concept of preemptive legislation, which to me is an essential component of good legislation?
I don't know the answer to that, Chris. I wish I did, because it's I really don't know why they don't understand and can't see the bigger picture of what is happening. But we just have to keep fighting.
Got to keep fighting and keep enlightening and keep educating. You're right. Well, how about 485? This is a bill that we've been very, very excited about. Representative Cruz brought substantially identical legislation earlier in the session, was killed in the House Commerce Committee, I believe. Your legislation, SB 485, has seen some similar issues and struggles. Talk to us a little bit about SB 485, where it is, and a little bit about the opposition that it's facing.
Well, I think it's anytime you introduce something new, people have heartburn over it. They don't understand, and they're like, once we go back to that, well, what is the need of this? And so whenever I brought the bill, I filed it in the Senate, hoping I could get it out of the Senate. But the banking industry, the lobbyists, just came out hard against it, because they think everybody's going to go to gold. And what the bill did, it would actually, once again, Texas has already developed a gold depository where you can deposit gold with Texas, and it would give you a card, like a MasterCard or Visa, that you could actually use that as currency. And so Senator Abraham had a bill that passed that makes gold legal tender, and that's the first step. And then so this bill would have created the ability for us to partner with Texas and develop a card where you could actually use your gold. I don't know, a lot of people have gold, but it's sitting in their upstairs or their vault somewhere, and you really don't have access. And so what this would have done, and I think it's a great idea, that it gives you access through using a debit card, and you can you can make purchases against that. You can buy gold and deposit it there. A lot of people are talking about if the dollar was to fail, and then you've got a actually currency that is not just gold backed, it is gold, and the price of gold is going up. It's so, and it was not you wouldn't have to pay capital gains on it if it's legal tender. So there's steps along the way that have to be done, and I think most of the members the banking industry was telling them that this was going to just wipe out banks, and then nobody would want to put money in their banks, which is not true. But that's what they were telling members. And, you want to scare people, then that's what what you just tell them, the worst case scenario. But not, like you said, Chris, not looking forward against, what we're seeing, this massive inflation that we've had under Joe Biden, that the value of our dollar is, I don't know, what is inflation? I mean, my the groceries are costing me twice as much as they were costing
Exactly.
4 years ago. So when you use gold, gold is constantly going up. I mean, it fluctuates some, but anyway, so what happened, we brought the bill in the Senate. Banking industry had lobbied hard, and the committee did not want to pass it. So I agreed to let them voluntarily defer it, and then said that we could do a study resolution on it and get some of the legislators on there, the banking industry on there, because this was like 3 years ago, Chris. I don't know if you remember this, but 2 years ago, I created an ESG task force.
Absolutely,
and
I remember it
the
well.
banking. Right. And they're like, what's ESG? The banking industry, and the lobbyists. What's ESG? They didn't even know what ESG or the central bank digital currency. They had never heard of that. And so that's why I did the task force. So as they began to come and hear the presentations and talk to them about it, they were like, oh, wait, this is a thing. So at the table, when Raymond Cruz was doing his bill, that same lobbyist made the statement, well, we went to a conference in D.C. this year, and they said we're at least a year and a half, 18 months to 24 months before we have a central bank digital currency. Now, 2 years ago, they said there's no such thing, that this was a solution in search of a problem. And now they know that was not a solution in search of a problem. It was a solution in search of a problem.
And interestingly, Senator Hodges, just yesterday, along the lines of what you're saying, Representative Amade's House Bill 357 that restricts CBDC in Louisiana passed out of committee. So sometimes I think you make a good point. It was in the Senate Commerce.
Awesome.
Yeah. So sometimes it is a matter of educating.
So see, that's the thing. That was 2 years ago. It is. You have to educate people, bring them to the table. We had people come in from DC, talk about this, and then because they had never heard of it. And now they came to the table. When they said that, I was like, I wanted to, send one of them a text. But so the same thing with this concept. It's a new concept. But I mean, I wanted Louisiana to be the first.
Yes.
That we could have developed it first and been, on the cutting edge of it. But they just did not want to do that. So at least we can come back next year. We'll do a study resolution in the interim, and hopefully we can get something passed. The fact that Representative Amade's bill passed out of Commerce yesterday is fantastic.
Yeah, and also, and I'll tell you this before Danielle, before you go on, I'll tell you also Representative Wright's bill prohibiting CBDC in Louisiana, and also restricting the government's ability to impede digital currency in Louisiana passed out of the Commerce Committee yesterday with some amendments, but it is still significantly intact as well. So that passed out yesterday. So we're very excited about that. We worked some with Representative Wright on that bill too. So, but we're just honestly, I have to tell you that it's disappointing about 485 right now, because you're right. There's nothing wrong with Louisiana being the first in something that's actually good, right?
Well, and it's who's it going to hurt, right? I mean, that's what baffles me and really burns me up, is why are legislators so afraid of the banking lobby when they should be more concerned with what's best for their constituents? This gives constituents an option. It's not forcing everyone to leave the banks. It's not saying you can never get a mortgage. No, obviously it's not doing that. It's a new option on the table that people can opt into. That's what makes me so angry.
Right.
And we're for freedom, Senator Hodges. We're for freedom. You're for freedom, which is why you brought the bill to begin with. It's yet another option. And really, to be honest with you, my own take, and I think Representative Cruz would agree with me. The reason, and I know that Treasurer Fleming would agree with us on this, that the reason why the bankers principally are opposed to this is because they don't want people, as you mentioned a minute ago, taking money out of the bank. Representative Cruz indicated, I didn't even know this, that for every $10 that we deposit into the bank, they can loan out $100. which they have money on loan. They get paid back with interest. They're looking out right now for their bottom line because they don't want people taking money out of the banks and investing in gold or using gold as transactional currency. That's the bottom line. They're just protecting their own interest on it, but that interest is directly contrary, seems to us, to the interests of Louisiana citizens across the state who, at least, as Danielle said, deserve the option.
Right. I agree. Well, hopefully we can get the task force up and stand that up and have the conversation and have some information to bring to show that is actually why they're opposed to it and get it implemented. It's incremental.
Yeah.
Well, Senator Hodges, we're going to keep pushing for it, even we will absolutely keep pushing for it because I'm not willing to give up. And since it was voluntarily deferred, there's, we can maybe find some places to get some traction. So we'll be in touch on that one.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys.
And Senator Hodges, I want to tell you also, I got to give you a little plug because you're exactly right. What you said about your ESG task force that you brought forward, and really the bills that we're seeing going through now that are addressing the CBDC issue, which is such a nefarious development. That is the fruit of your task force, your ESG task force that you did a couple of years ago, raising awareness about this. And so that really is the foundation for some of this good anti-CBDC legislation that's going through now. So you certainly deserve a lot of credit for that.
Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And we appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate what you guys do.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate everything you do. We're always behind you 100%. We are, you have an army of people behind you, and we're just very proud of your efforts. And by the way, congratulations on your daughters. Did they win the championship?
No, they did not. They placed they placed fifth out of, I think, several, I don't know, at the 30 or 40 teams. I don't remember exactly what it was. So she was super disappointed, but we still had fun. It was her last competition, but she graduates. Today's her last day of school. I'm very proud of her, and she'll be going to LSU in the fall. But so,
and it was a gymnastics or cheer? What was the competition? Cheer.
It was, competitive cheer. So next week in education, I have my parent, and I've got to jump off. I've got to be on another call in 5 minutes. But the Parents' Bill of Rights is going to be in education. So y'all keep your eye on that. The Parents' Bill of Rights, Lori Schlegel scheduled it, and it just says that I have the right as a parent that my child is not taught that they are oppressed or an oppressor. It's very simple, 2.5 lines. But that puts it in the Parents' Bill of Rights.
Great bill.
So they will not be able to. Yeah, it is. It is a good bill. And then the protest on college campuses, that will be in House and Governmental. Hopefully next week. We're getting close. So we got a few more weeks before we run out of time. But
well, we're going to be pushing it hard.
So
we're going to be pushing it hard. And Senator Hodges, we thank you so much for joining us today. We will keep people posted on developments, and you're a great representative to us.
Thank y'all for all you do.
Thank you.
Well, we thank y'all. Y'all have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Chris, I'm so grateful for the legislation she's bringing. You hit the nail on the head when you said that she is one of the legislators who are continually bringing legislation with foresight that actually protects the people, protects the interests and the rights of the citizens of Louisiana.
Absolutely. It's from her parental rights bill, the gold and silver bill, her bills to clamp down on election fraud. She's always on the forefront of this. It's good to see a leader who doesn't mind taking the heat, because she doesn't mind taking the heat. I know it's not comfortable for her, but she's always getting outside of her own comfort zone in order to fill a need that needs to be filled. And that's one of the reasons why I have such great respect for her. I put her in a very ill category of leaders in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like a dog with a bone on this transactional gold and silver bill. I'm not willing for us to let this one die on the vine, because why should we? If Louisiana is so concerned with economic development, withdrawing business, withdrawing people to come back to the state, why would we just take a pass on such a great opportunity that's been dropped in our lap and let another state get that right, get that first mover advantage. So I'm not willing to do that. I would be encouraging our listeners. This is still up on our Action Center. Let your voice be known. Go on there every day of the week and make sure that your legislators, and I think we're also sending notice on that to Governor Landry, that this is important for the future of our state. This is important for the economic security of the citizens to have this option. And we won't take no for an answer. And we certainly are not going to bow to the banking lobbyists, because what have they done for us? Like you said, Chris, they are loaning out our money, making money off of fake money out of thin air of us every single day of the week. So why do we need to bow to them? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah, this is a textbook example of our legislative leadership, unfortunately, lining up with a powerful special interest group against the broad interest of Louisiana citizens, which is really, Danielle, why LACAG exists. There's no question about it. We exist to expose that type of special interest loyalty against Louisiana citizens. And we're going to continue to encourage passage of this bill. You're right. It is not dead yet. It was voluntarily deferred, which means it can come back. There just has to be the will there to do it. And the opposition has nothing to do with not understanding this concept, Danielle.
Thank you. I was going to say that. This legislature has no problem with passing bills they don't understand.
They don't understand. And this is not a complicated concept. It's a very simple concept. The opposition is based on, again, the narrow interest of bankers who are afraid that people are going to withdraw money out of the banks and they won't be able to loan as much of our money out with interest and make the kind of loans that they make. That's all it is. That's what it comes down to. So we have to revitalize this legislation, keep it moving forward, and get this passed. It will really sort of revolutionize the way business is done in the state. I really believe that.
I do too. Too. And if Governor Landry wants to lead the charge for economic development, I hope he gets behind this 110%.
Got to do it. And so let's keep moving forward, Danielle. I never like to close a show here without thanking our Freedom State listeners, growing rapidly, developing across the state, a very powerful voice for the citizens. Thank you from the bottom of our heart for your support, for your sharing of the state of freedom. We could not be where we are without you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you'd like to support us, you can do that at freedomstate.us, or you can also advertise with us. If you're interested in advertising, we have the ability to do that. So just drop us a line at info@freedomstate.us, or you can email me directly, Danielle@freedomstate.us. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to support Louisiana First businesses through advertising. And Chris, you have been at the legislature, more than you've been at home. Let's be honest. You have been burning the midnight oil over there. You have been wearing out your shoe leather and making the voice of the people heard. So thank you so much for that. And if people want to support the work that we're doing through LACAG, you can do that at lacag.org. And you can also give by mail. And Chris, you'll give that P.O. Box.
P.O. Box 64952, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70896. Danielle, we are the German shepherds of the Louisiana citizens in the state legislature, getting a lot of good things done this session, killing some really bad things down there as well. It is such a privilege to be the eyes, ears, heart, and lungs of Louisiana citizens all over the state. And we wouldn't be able to do it without your support. So please support LACAG, LACAG.org, or mail a donation, and keep us on your list of people to support and help, because we really are doing it for all of the right reasons, and we're making a big, big difference. And you can sleep well at night knowing that you are doing it. And if you do support us and continue to do so, both the State of Freedom and LACAG, each day, with God's grace and courage and effort, we will continue to build our infrastructure, continue to make incremental advances, and slowly but surely drain the Louisiana swamp and preserve the great state of freedom in Louisiana.
Amen. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The State of Freedom. To stay on top of all the calls to action we mentioned today, just check out the show notes for the episode. If you'd like to support the show financially, visit our website at freedomstate.us. If you'd prefer to give by mail, you can send a check to the State of Freedom, LLC, at P.O. Box 861, Berg, Louisiana 70343. If you own a business in Louisiana and are interested in supporting our show by advertising, please email us at info@freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit LACAG.org, LACAG.org, or email Chris at chris@lacag.org. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe and share it. Give us a 5-star rating in the reviews. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time.